Hi,
Hello.
Hayden.
Can you, let me unmute. Here we go. That's a good start.
Yeah,
Can you?
no, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Loud and clear. Hi, Hayden. How are you?
Hi, Robin. Nice to meet you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Living the dream.
Excellent. Excellent. What is the dream?
Well, that's the question.
Podcasts and ultra running.
It's a very subjective statement, that isn't it? I suppose it's very it's an individualized statement. So yeah, life's good though.
Excellent.
Whereabouts in the world are you?
So we're up in Altrincham. We're in
Okay.
Altrincham, just southwest Manchester, not too far from the motorway network, and accessible flights out to Chamonix and France and the rest of Europe, really. So it's a pretty handy place to be.
Yeah, you're not too far from me actually. I'm just down the East Lancs actually. I'm in Haydock at the minute. So
Oh, great, good. Yeah, I mean the sun's shining today, so that does make things a lot more enjoyable.
yeah.
Yeah, long may it continue.
Well, Kate thinks so. She's heading up to the Lake District this afternoon for Ultra Tour of Skidoo. So
Oh, great. Well, Jane Stevens, one of our race directors for Arc of Attrition, is heading up there as well. So,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
small world.
Yeah, no, I saw that. Yeah, no, it'd be good to catch up with her actually. Well, thank you so much for talking to us.
No problem at all.
It was lovely to meet you the other day, up on the mountain, one of those chance meetings. How did you do? Because you were doing the was it the place fell 10K the next day, weren't you?
15. Let's not shortcut this.
15,
It
sorry.
was 15K. Um, I did I did probably better than I was expecting, to be honest. 1 hour and 40,
Yeah.
I think, which I'm a steady runner. You know, I'm not at the front of the pack, and I'm hopefully not last in the pack, but I'm steady. And for me, it was, yeah, just a great day out. It's been training for ETC out in Chamonix at the end of this month. So fortunate enough to be able to run through work out in Mont Blanc and just building up some distance and some elevation to be a comfortable 15 to 20K runner, really. So yeah, it was good. Thank you. Yeah, great. Run again. Likewise, really nice to meet you out there. It's a small world at times, so good to
It is.
start making some extra connections.
Is that an opportunity for you also to just kind of connect with other race directors and see what they do and kind of learn something from them?
Yeah, most definitely. I think there's, you know, across the UK, we've got some really strong race directors, event directors. It's a really good pool of talent out there, people who've been doing this far longer than I have. So for me to get out and meet other people is a great networking tool for myself. And you're always learning. I find that you know, just by going to other people's events, you can see what they're doing, how participants are welcomed, what they put on, what the show's like. And yeah, it's a really friendly bunch of people out there. And I tend to try and catch up with people that I know and say hi. And likewise, if I can offer any extra advice or, you know, encouragement or general tips and tricks, then yeah, it's good to talk to people, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, sometimes I find it's enjoyable when it's not your event that you can go, you can run or volunteer. You know, it's good to get out and see people. But when it's not your event, there isn't that pressure and accountability, and you can hopefully relax into it a little bit more and just enjoy it as a participant, as a runner, as a customer, and just get a sense of this is what our customers must feel like a lot more often. But when it's, you know, if it's UTS or Arc of Attrition, then you're not really in a position to relax too much. So yeah, it's great to go and see other people and enjoy different parts of the world as well, where we have got events and we'll go and enjoy the Lake District. It's, you know, stunning at this time of year, and yeah, great to see people that are up there.
So what is your background then, Hayden? How did you get into RD? And because I know you obviously had something to do with UTS before, I think before UTMB took over, is that right?
No, so actually I joined in the first edition in 2022
Yeah,
when UTS had been
UTMB.
purchased by our
Okay.
UTS had been purchased by UTMB
So
the
you didn't have anything to do, didn't
previous
have
year.
anything to do with Mike when he was running it.
So Mike was race director when I joined in the very early months of 2022.
Right.
And I was operations manager for those first two editions, and
Okay.
then moved into the event director role last summer after we delivered UTS 2023. So
Cool.
this year has been my third UTS as part of the team behind the scenes. Next year will be my fourth. And I mean, the last three editions in the last sort of 2.5 to 3 years have been a whirlwind introduction into the sport of long distance running, ultra running, and trail running as well. So just for a bit of background, prior to this, I wasn't a long distance runner, and I definitely am not. You know, I think it's really important to be quite clear up front that I'm not an ultra runner yet. You know, I'm enjoying the sport, I'm enjoying meeting our customers, and it's a fantastic community. and I'm hopeful that I can work my way towards it, but it's not something that you instantly click your fingers and then you can run 50, 100 miles. You know, it's there's people that have been doing this a lot longer than I have, and they are very well conditioned for those type of distances. But my background comes from an event management background. A long time ago, I was a civil engineering student at the University of Bath. So I actually did engineering as a degree back in the early 2000s, and had a great time there, and studied hard and just really enjoyed the university life in Bath because it was very sport heavy. Great facilities, great clubs, really a wonderful place to be if you're into sport. And I then moved into a career in construction soon after. And 2012 came along, the London Olympics, and being a sports lover and a keen volunteer and somebody who's hopefully a little bit organised, I applied to be a games maker and got selected. So in 2012, I was at the London Olympics, again, behind the scenes, having the best 3 weeks ever, working in transport and logistics, and just seeing this whole show come together where it was vibrant, it was energetic, the teamwork, the camaraderie was just off the charts. And I got back to my day job afterwards and just thought, you know what, I've been thinking about this for a while, but I really want to work in sport. And if I don't do it now, when will I do it? So I use the Olympics as a catalyst. And for me, that's the legacy of London 2012 for me, is it was a career change. And I went back to university, went up to Leeds Met Uni, which is now Leeds Beckett, and did a degree in event management, specialising in sports events. And then followed that up by getting a job in Glasgow on the Commonwealth Games. So from 2012, 2013, and then into 14 and onwards, so it's well over 10 years now, nearly 12, 13 years, I've been working in sport in a different fields, and the sports life is very varied. Some of it's contracts, some of it's permanent work, moving from city to city and sport to sport. And I've been, very privileged with the jobs I've had, and it's been very varied, whether it's rugby events at Twickenham or it's Rome regattas, or I managed a golf tour for a brief period of time over 4 years, and then went into the world of triathlon with British Triathlon up in Loughborough. And then did a stint at Silverstone on the British Grand Prix. So I did the British Grand Prix through COVID and the years after. And I've moved around a lot with the work, and I feel I come into this world of ultra trail running with maybe a slightly different background to most race directors or event directors. And I prefer to call myself an event director because I see it as more than just the race. I see it as the whole event collective, whether that's all the side events that you've got going on, whether it's the community you're trying to build. So I refer to myself as an event director. And I feel I come into this with lots of different sporting experience from other different professional sports. Some where you've got hundreds of thousands of spectators at a venue. But I'm really enjoying the chance to do something new and working with a new community who are incredibly passionate, incredibly loyal to the sport of trail running. And hopefully I can bring something to that. But I mean, I know you mentioned the race up in the Lake District. It's great to go up and meet other race directors. We've got some fantastic race directors in the country, and they've all been very helpful to me in the last 3 years of moving into this role with UTMB. Also, I've got a great bunch of colleagues back in France already that have done trail running in the Alps and across the rest of Europe and globally far longer than I have. So it's it's really nice to have that support. And long may it continue, and hopefully I'm adding to our own expertise, and hopefully we do get some good feedback from UTS, and I look forward to Arc of Attrition in January as well, and building that event and continue to get good feedback from our runners who come down to Cornwall. So hopefully we're doing good work in the UK and building some really good events for runners to come and participate in.
Well, that's fascinating, actually, and I'd love to know sort of what you do sounds like a much more professional and all-round sort of qualification as such, that probably no other race director than I know has that sort of background or that training. What do you think you've sort of been taught over the years and through all the different sports that's sort of different to what your average race director can bring to a 50k race, say in the Chilterns?
I mean, that's a great question. Now, I can't honestly speak on behalf of all the other race directors and what their background's been and what experience or qualifications they've done. I think there might be a tendency that people have come into this as a runner and they've had great experience of running the trails or participating in events, and then they want to organise their own events, and that's possibly where some people come into it. It's certainly not the route I've had. So I've had a different route in terms of coming from other sports and moving across into trail and ultra running. But yeah, I've got a degree behind me, but I don't think that means it's everything. It helped provide me with some of the fundamentals in terms of strategy and volunteer management, and looking at your risks and reputation, and looking at some of the more, I suppose, some of the more sort of educational elements of event management. Writing a dissertation, I did my dissertation on stadium legacy. So, I looked at the responsibility of making sure that stadiums are not left empty and underutilized, and they actually form a long-term benefit for a community. And Manchester 2002 was a case study I looked at, comparing that to other sports that had happened. So a background that I've got is probably a little bit more educational, but I think there's, over the last 12 years, the practical experience I've got from doing a variety of different sports in a variety of different places. Some have been with very little funding, and some have been with absolutely monstrous budgets that I'd be very envious to have right now. Where money's not really an object, and it's all about putting a show on the road and getting the Olympics delivered. So but you've got to look at these things. I look at the role I'm in now, and I think all of that has built up to this position that I have as an event director, where I've been very fortunate to see a variety of different sports and work from a junior level in event management and the sports world, up to a good role now where I feel very privileged and responsible to be leading the UK business for UTMB. And we've got 2 great events on the books, and I can't speak about other race directors. That's the really interesting thing, is they're a wonderful bunch, but I just don't know everybody's background. So I can only really speak on behalf of myself. But I've studied hard. I've got a few qualifications there in terms of health and safety, which are helpful. I think with outdoor sports as well, this is one of the unique challenges, is there's a big risk there with the weather. We don't know what the weather's going to be like for some of our races, and we've been fortunate the last 2 years with UTS that we've had fairly good weather conditions. Minimal wind.
One very hot a couple of years ago, if I recall.
Well, the last 2 years, Robin, have actually been far better than we were probably expecting and forecasting a few weeks out. So, UTS this year and UTS 2023, we had some warm conditions. It was sort of mid-20s, which, as we sit here and look out the window, that's probably what it is now. But when you're in North Wales and you've been expecting rain and wind, to get mid-20s and the sun comes out is unique. It's fantastic. And to have that for the 3 days of the last 2 editions of UTS, so from people arriving on Friday through to people heading home on Sunday, the weather was really good for us. I think it probably threw quite a few runners by surprise, because the challenging aspect of the runner journey is they'll have been training through the winter, whether it's pre-January, I would hope, all the way through January, February, March and April. And if you've been out to Snowdonia in that time, it was wet, it was windy, you maybe even summited some of the peaks in snow, even as late as February, March and April. And then you turn up in May and it's just completely a different
blistering sunshine
environment and climate to what you've been training in. So people will not have been acclimatized to sunny conditions in North Wales at the time. So I think that threw a few people. But as an organizer, anything outdoors, you are in the lap of the gods when it comes to weather. So you have to be able to prepare and have contingency and make sure you've got some good plans should it turn one way or the other. If the wind was to come in and the rain was to come in and visibility dropped off significantly, then we would look to reroute the course. But all that is planned for, and all that's in our communications and processes pre-event. So I think that's something that all as race directors and event directors, especially with long distance running, are probably pretty au fait with, and hopefully we've all got that covered off in our various documents. So it's a challenge that affects us all, and you just got to make do and roll with it, and make sure you've got the good preparations there, and you communicate clearly with the customers so they know what's happening.
Good.
We're smiling because Robin supported me when I did the UTS the 100K last year, and we did a recce in February in whiteout.
Okay. Yeah.
We are full of feels for what you've just said
Yeah,
in terms of the weather and the
struck
change.
a chord, didn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Um,
Well, I
mentioned,
think
go on.
if you can go out and you can train in harsh conditions, and then if the race day is much calmer and nicer, then you've clearly extended your training and you should be able to cope with that. I'd fully encourage anybody that's looking to come and do UTS, get yourself on a recce, whether that's your own independent trip with friends and family, go and check the route, explore it, make sure you know what the terrain and the conditions are going to be like. So it's probably different to quite a lot of other people's ultra journeys so far. We do organise recce through one of our local providers. So if you're interested, jump on the website and check it out. But I think to prepare yourself as best as you can, going out and seeing the course and spending a little bit of time in the mountains is fundamental to making your race experience as good as it can be. And yeah, if you're investing a lot of time and energy and training into that, then you really want to do as much as you can to be ready on race day. So yeah, glad to hear you went out and you saw what the conditions could be like.
I actually saw the terrain for the first time on the event.
Yeah, it was covered in snow, wasn't it? Yeah.
But this is the challenge that we're probably experiencing across the world, right? Is that the climate is maybe not as consistent as it has been 20 years ago. As a kid, I remember most Christmases were you'd probably be guaranteed snow, whereas now it's just not the same. So I think this is another challenge that's affecting the event industry, and particularly the outdoor sports industry, is that the weather conditions are not necessarily as easy to forecast as they might have been a long time ago.
You mentioned the ARC and the Arc of Attrition with UTMB. Is that the official title now? How does it?
Arc of Attrition by UTMB.
By UTMB. And I think that kind of caught people a bit by surprise. They the by UTMB part of that, because obviously the Arc had been developed into a staple of the ultra running calendar. It was a nice event because it was the one kind of early on in the season, and I think certainly the response took me by surprise from some of the community. Just talk me through how that felt from your point of view as kind of the event director of the UK, to kind of see what the different range of opinions that were coming from the ultra community when that event was kind of came under the UTMB umbrella.
Great question. And I think you're absolutely right that there were mixed feelings when we announced that earlier this year. I've been speaking to Jane, Andy and Fergie, the race directors of the ARC down in Cornwall, for many months. We probably had our first conversation back in December. And I went down in January to see the ARC and see what it's like and meet the team, meet the people behind the scenes, chat to a lot of the volunteers and just get a feel for the event, knowing that as a business, UTMB, we were looking to have a second event in the UK. And we had a few events that we were looking at, and a few events had contacted us and were actually saying that we'd love to join the World Series. We're really keen to be part of something bigger, but we've taken our event as far as we can go, and we'd love to have your support to help us. And Mud Crew and the Arc of Attrition fell into that latter category. So we had conversations through January and February, and it was a very amicable agreement. They were a wonderful event, really great people, and I saw that culture and the community that's down in Cornwall, and I thought this is something special. This is a great race. It's very different to UTS in the sense of the terrain is different, the scenery is different. There are not many long climbs and long descents to get into. It's very up and down. The coastal path is very undulating, so it provides a different challenge to UTS. And then when you look at the calendar as well, the World Series and where we are with quite a lot of races around the world now, and the calendar's growing, something in January away from that busy May period where we couldn't host another event realistically in the build up to UTS and probably soon after. So January was a perfect window. And yeah, so from our side, it just made perfect sense for us as UTMB and for the team behind Arc of Attrition. It was a great conversation, and it worked out for both of us. But yeah, to see some of the criticism online, I think you could, to a point, justify it, because I think there are some people who maybe don't value the UTMB brand as much as others, and that's absolutely fine. We're a business that offers fantastic, extraordinary running experiences and events for people to come and participate in. it might not be everybody's cup of tea, and that is absolutely fine. If you don't want to run a UTMB event, we're not saying you have to. There's plenty of great events out there across the UK and across Europe and even further afield that you can go and participate in. But if you do want to run a fantastic event in the UK that is well organised and has a really great atmosphere at the start and the finish, and you're with like-minded people, then please come and run UTS, please come and run Arc of Attrition, and we'll put on an event for you. So we were really adamant we were doing we are doing the right thing, and it's worked out really well so far. But to see some people criticise, I think it was quite harsh for the team behind the scenes. So Jane, Andy, and Fergie, who've worked tirelessly to build this event to what it is, and it should be seen as a huge honour and privilege for them that they wanted to join the World Series, and here they are. So they're now on the global scale, on a global scene, working with myself and other race directors around the world to be part of something really special. But there's a lot of support as well. I think it's quite easy to focus on the small negative sectors and maybe some of the criticism on social media. That's quite easy, and I think we all do that anyway, whatever we're doing. Sadly, the negative parts speak a little bit louder than the vast majority of positive comments. So the support from their friends and the community in Cornwall and the people that have actually run it before and volunteer and are the archangels, that core fantastic group of people that put the event on, they're all incredibly passionate about this, and they've offered huge amounts of support to the team, and they're looking forward to January. And we're working over the next, we've got 5 months to put this together now, and there's plenty to do between now and then. But we're focusing on the positives. We're focusing on the people that do want to come. We've got good entries so far. Registrations have done really well. There are a few spaces left in the 100-mile and the 25-mile. So if anybody listening to this is keen to come down to Cornwall in January, get your entries in as soon as you can, because they will probably sell out soon. But they're the people that we want to focus on. The runners that want to come and tackle Arc of Attrition and add to that legacy of the last decade that has been, a fantastic event in Cornwall. Come on down, get your entries in. We'll put on a good show for you. And I think just to probably add a little bit to the picture, really, is I think we probably get two types of runners that apply to UTS and subsequently Arc of Attrition. I think you could simply say that half of our customers, half of our runners, are probably big UTMB fans, and they want to try and achieve their running stones and maybe go on to do other events and be part of this World Series. And their aspirations are to qualify and achieve the stones to get picked and go to Chamonix and run in the World Series finals, along with many other ultra runners from around the world. So some of the best runners in the world. I think that appeals to probably 50% of our runners, really, in the UK. And then the other 50%, just to keep it really simple, are probably just looking for a great race to come and participate in and to join something special in the UK. And they're maybe not too interested in running stones, and maybe the sights and sounds of Chamonix do not fall onto their bucket list. So I think we need to cater for both. We're part of a World Series. There's the way to earn your stones and go and run further afield. But also, even on its own, Arc of Attrition is still there as a great race. It's still there in Cornwall in January to provide a challenge to any ultra runner that wants to come and tackle 100 miles, 50 miles, or even 25 miles of coastal path. Let's be fair, like mostly in darkness. I mean, it's it's a different challenge. It is different,
and it is wild down. It is wild down there. I mean, the profile is like a saw's tooth, isn't it? And it's that time of year, that coast. It's not. It's a difficult. Mud. Steep
I was
downs.
down there this
ups.
week. I was with the team this week, just doing some site visits to some of our new age stations, which we're adding in. And the conditions were sunny and glorious, and the beaches that we drove past were, full of people having a great time. So it was a very different environment. But I think Cornwall would struggle with snow. I think there's maybe a small risk of it actually snowing and settling, but you could get muddy, windy, rainy conditions. So if you've done UTS or you've done other races in the UK and you're looking for something very different in the new year, then it's up there as one to do, really.
Yeah, it was interesting actually watching the conversation play out when the announcement was made, because you had that initial kind of upsurge of kind of shock, and then it tempered fairly quickly actually, with people going, well, do you know what? Fergie and Jane know what they're doing. You know, this isn't going to be a bad thing. You know, this is still going to be the race that we know and love. And it kind of just evened out. So you get that balanced view in the end. But I'm interested with kind of UTMB's thoughts about where they're going to go. You know, where else are they going to go in the UK? What's the strategy? What's the vision for the UK? You know, are we looking at any more? Are we not looking at any more? I mean, wouldn't expect you to break any confidences here, Hayden, but you know,
we'd love to know.
Yeah, tell us.
Of course you would. I think a lot of people would. It's a question. It's probably the question I get asked the most, really. I think the first question I get asked is, do I run? And then the second thing is, where's the next event?
Right, so we've covered the first one, so give us.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, we're in the UK, we're a very small team. We are 2 full-time staff members. We're expanding. You know, we're taking obviously more with Arc of Attrition, but the core team behind the scenes is 2 full-time staff members and a team of very talented, experienced, and incredibly passionate freelancers who help us out in the lead up to the event. So, you know, I'm sat here in Manchester with a great team behind me, but we are not 10, 15 people strong, and we are not looking to take on more events that we couldn't accommodate right now. So I think the very simple answer is we've got 2 brilliant events next year in UTS and Arc of Attrition, which take up a lot of time to plan and deliver safely. And it's not a simple switch on and off. You know, there are very challenging moving parts behind the scenes, especially with land permissions and stakeholder engagement in North Wales and Eryri. You know, it's a very sensitive area that has quite a lot of tourism and it's members of the public that go hiking there. So we are very aware that we need to ensure UTS remains a focal point for our own work internally, and that we are delivering the best experience for our customers and also the communities. You know, a big part of why I enjoy sports and enjoy this role is I really want the events to be a positive for the communities that they're held in. And whether that's the economic benefit of hosting an event and selling hotels and restaurants and souvenirs and making sure the communities benefit financially, but also, you know, when you think about the social impact and having some pride in welcoming people to your region, like that's really important for us and also for, you know, the North Wales community as well. So we've got to focus on delivering great races, UTS being one that takes up a lot of time. Arc of Attrition is new for myself right now, and we're thrilled to be working with Andy, Jane, and Fergie to keep that consistency going, and they're on for the long term. So they're going to take up a lot of time. Now there is an appetite and a demand in the UK possibly for more. You know, we do get asked this, and I think the rate at which registrations sell for UTS and Arc of Attrition shows that there's demand from the community in the UK and the running community that a third event could be highly successful, not just for the UK, but also for some of our international runners and visitors who enjoy the travel elements of the World Series. So there is a demand there, and I'm not gonna deny it. You know, we would love to have a third race, but I think it has to be done in a controlled and managed way, so it's not detrimental to the other 2 events. And also so that we're considerate as to where we're hosting and how that impacts on maybe existing events and existing companies that are delivering, you know, great races and events of their own. So it's there's a lot of things that go into that decision. Yes, we are a commercial business. Yes, we do exist to deliver events and make money to keep the business going. I think that's very evident. You know, with the events and the growth of the World Series right now, is that there's a huge demand globally for trail events in some stunning locations, and we as a World Series and we as a UTMB group are looking to accommodate that demand. And you can see events, you know, popping up in countries and territories where we maybe didn't have something before.
Yeah.
So I think that the UK is definitely seen as a important market for UTMB. We are a very passionate and enthusiastic country of runners, whether you are a road runner looking to move into trail and get a little bit more off-road, or whether you're a fan of ultra distance and have been doing it a lot longer. You know, I think it's really important to stress though that we as UTMB, and especially the 2 events we have in the UK, we're not the only way to go and run. And I think some people get a little bit caught up in thinking that if we did have a new event, there might be some criticism. I mean, I hope there wouldn't be, but there might be. but there's many other races that you can go and participate in. You know, we are not the sole owner of running. We would love you to come and run our races. Great, you know, do enter a UTMB race because they are fantastic. But, you know, I think people get a bit excited that we're this huge organization, and they lose sight of possibly the people behind the scenes. And, you know, as I said, we're just 2 full-time staff members in Southwest Manchester looking to put on 2 fantastic events in Attrition and Cornwall, and welcome runners from all over the UK and have a great experience. And, you know, we've got fantastic volunteers in both of those locations, and really enthusiastic and important stakeholders that help support us, because you can't do this on your own. You do need the buy-in of other people, and whether that's the communities or the local authorities or our supply chain. So we're really fortunate, and I feel we're really lucky to have these 2 great events. And yeah, long may it continue. Let's get 2025 done. Let's see how that goes next year. Spend some time reflecting next summer, taking a look at where we need to improve. And I think it's really, I think there's many times where you could possibly put your feet up after an event and go, you know what, I think we've cracked it. But I do like to continually improve what we offer. And I'm always looking for the small little changes or slight alterations and improvements to an event just to make it that bit better the following year. There'll be some big fundamental changes if we need to, but ultimately I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, which is a blessing and a curse at times. And I, you know, greatly welcome the feedback that the runners provide for us in the feedback survey, social media as well. We do keep an eye on that, although I'm not on social media myself. So yeah, I mean, look, a 3rd event, it may happen. I'm not going to sit here and deny it, but we just need to make sure that Arc of Attrition and UTS next year are the best events that we can deliver with the team we have. So I look forward to welcoming all our volunteers back, and also seeing the friendly faces of the runners who are maybe returning for a 2nd attempt, or maybe they DNF'd last year and they want to come back and try again, but also the new customers that are hopefully joining us on this incredible journey of the World Series. And yeah, look forward to getting their feedback afterwards as well.
Can I ask, there's such a difference in you mentioned the communities earlier. There's such a difference in Europe between the community interaction with an event that's perhaps going through their race. In the UK, we seem to be quite sort of nonplussed if a race goes through a village. I mean, I can think of only one race that goes through Ambleside, where Ambleside kind of comes together and claps and everyone sort of cheers as you go through. Everywhere else, no one really seems to care that much. If you're running through, they're kind of going, what are these weird people doing? But in France and in Europe and in other places in America, there's this massive, so the community comes out and supports the race and supports the runners and gets bells and hands out food. Is that sort of, do you think that's part of your remit to sort of kind of try and bring the event and the community together a bit, to the benefit of all?
Yeah, most definitely. You're absolutely right. I think there are differences in how people support events, and that could be down to historical and tradition, and whether an event's grown from a community grassroots level and then become bigger, and people have been on that journey all the way through. I mean, you just have to look at, you know, what Mark Laithwaite's done at you know, Lakeland, and you know, that seems to be just a fantastic experience and community that come out and support that one. And it's the same for other events as well. You know, there are really good races in the UK that are, you know, well supported. I don't think it'd be the majority. I think there are races that probably could be more supported, and we would be one of them. It is a difficult sell at times to go into North Wales, and we put on UTS, and it's clearly grown in the last 6 years or 7 years if you include COVID, since 2018. It's grown hugely since the initial race of about 100 people. And I do see it as my role to engage with those communities and to talk to the towns and the villages where we come through, and the local authorities to say, hey, look, this race is coming through. You know, we've worked with you for the previous 6 or 7 years. We've got this many runners. They will travel from a fair distance, and some are local. So let's support the local runners as they come through. But, you know, we're having a really positive economic and social benefit on your community. And, you know, we do get some village halls. You know, the volunteers who run that hall throughout the year will come and support and cheer and help us, whether that's an aid station or a passing point. But I think it's I would love to see Llanberis for the start of UTS replicate something like the Aruri Marathon or the Snowdon Mountain Race, where you've got hundreds, if not thousands, of people lining those first few kilometers of trail when the runners go off. That would be brilliant. And I think it will take time. We're getting better each year. And actually, this year, when you look at the start we had for the three races, and then the 100-mile actually on Friday as well, so if you include all 4 races, we had hundreds of people lining that route from the National Slate Museum in Llanberis up to the bottom of the Llanberis Path. And the sun was out. And I probably didn't appreciate it at the time because I was in the midst of putting the race on and sat in a cabin doing a little bit of pre-race admin and making sure everything started on time. But when you look at the photos and the videos afterwards, and you also see some of the videos that our runners put up on YouTube or social media, which keep that coming, because that's a really great endorsement of the event to see how much fun people had. But you see the crowds and you see the sunshine beaming down and all the colour and the excitement, and we're getting there. We are getting there. But I think it'd be great to have more of the local communities come out, and it is something we're looking at doing from a volunteer point of view as well. See if we can get more local volunteers to come and support the race and take pride in being part of that and welcoming people to their town or to their village or through their community. I think the arc of attrition, if I was just to touch on that for a minute, is more established. I think the Cornish community, from what I've heard and seen myself in January, they come out and support that because they're so proud of that race coming through. Again, there's always room for improvement, and I think we could look to bolster that this year and hopefully try and provide a few more areas where spectators can watch and gather to really shout and cheer the runners as they come through. But yeah, look, I don't know, it'll be great to have people lining most of the route, but then you've just got to be really sensitive, because some sections of our routes are very remote, and they're very sensitive with the ecology and the conservation work going on, that we have to really think about where we're asking spectators to gather and watch from, and it usually is in a village or a town centre. So
yeah, I think with Mark, though, I mean, when you talk about Mark and the Lakeland 100, I mean, he invests a lot of money back into those communities in terms of card hold cash to charities, and I'm not too sure whether there's many events that could or would structure the return back to the community in terms of the resources that they give. So, but Kate's right. It's the Lakeland 100 is quite special in terms of its community feel. And I suppose talking about what you're trying to build, the Cornish community kind of lends itself to that, I guess, a little bit better, because they're slightly less weary. If you look at the amount of traffic that goes, foot traffic in terms of races that goes through North Wales, there's quite a few races, whereas there isn't that many in Cornwall, is there, I suppose?
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, we speak to the local authority and Gwynedd Council, and you only have to look and search online, and there's quite a few events that go from Llanberis through the summer months, especially. We're very fortunate and very grateful for the local community and the use of the community centre and some of the land that we have there and the people that come out and help us put the race on. So we do want to build on those. It couldn't happen without the support of various landowners and stakeholders in North Wales. So that's for me and my team to continue to build on each year, and ensure that there's. I think that the long-term goal really is that UTS becomes an integral feature in the sporting calendar for North Wales.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think we're ever going to have the same history and pedigree as the mountain race and the Aruri Marathon. They're very, very incredible events that have been going far longer. But just to get a little bit closer and a little bit more ingrained in the community, so that we are seen as an event that is welcomed, and that we have, how best can we use our 3,000 runners that come and give back to that community, so that when we leave, the event has been a positive for North Wales and the villages and the towns that we go through, and that each year we come back, we're welcome back, and the communities know that we're donating so many thousands of pounds to conservation or to the mountain rescue, or it's enabled volunteers to come out and actually meet new people and showcase their town and their skills, and their being on an aid station and meeting the runners as they come through to possibly even looking at, actually, in the weeks leading up to it, is there a chance for me to bring on some local people as skilled labour to help deliver the event for people who might be out of work at the time or might be looking for a route into sports events. You know, there's a few avenues here that I'm looking to explore where Ultra Trail Snowdonia isn't just a 3-day event that comes and goes, that actually has a positive impact after we've left. And then the following year, when we come back, it just kind of picks up again. So it's seen as a real kind of positive impact on that region of North Wales. That's the plan.
That's probably kind of, in a way, that's probably answered my question from earlier about being an event director. It seems to me that rather than just putting on a race, you're putting on a show that includes not just the runners, but the community and the volunteers and the people that work behind it and the families of the runners who are there. It's so much more than just a race that goes from A to B. And perhaps that's where the difference lies that UTMB offer. It's a show for over a specific time that appeals to perhaps more than just the runner.
You're right, and that is how I try and approach it, and hence I don't refer to myself as a race director because I see it's more than just a race. There's a lot that goes into it to make this an event for the 3 days, but also before and after. You know, we're bringing in 300 people to our team to be our core volunteers that help put on this incredible experience for the runners. So it's, you know, that volunteering aspect is a huge part of the event, and the communities and the charities that we can work with, and even some of the local businesses, you know, to have an ultra trail village near the start and the finish and bring local businesses right to the doorstep of the event so that our runners and their friends and family can see what businesses are in this community and effectively give them a shop window to 3,000 runners and maybe even 3,000 spectators over a 3-day weekend. That's really good traffic for those local businesses. And how we can ensure that some of the community groups, and we had Snowdonia Gear Repair this year, who were repairing people's clothing, and that's a local business in Snowdonia, very keen to reduce the amount of clothes that go to landfill or are just used for until they break, and actually reuse them. I think there's a lot more work that we can do like that. But yeah, I do see it as a much bigger piece. My role has changed a lot. It was operations and event management over many years, and now it's moving to a more of a director strategy level, and how we can really use UTS and Arc of Attrition to be a benefit to those regions where we are hosted. We can't do it alone. This is it. It's not. If it was just me, it would be very, very difficult. We do need those communities and the local regions to really buy into it and help us. But I think there's some really good relationships we're building there. And we're not finished. We're not the perfect article. We're always improving. And I'm very grateful to the other race directors who I get to see at various points throughout the year and go to their events and see what they're doing. And it's all sharing. I think the wonderful thing about the trail running and ultra community is that people are happy to share ideas because they know the long-term goal is to just make it more of a sustainable sport, that you are running through the mountains and having a great time with friends and family and challenging yourself. So I feel very fortunate to other race directors, other event managers, and the people that I meet along the way to help us get there.
It's interesting listening to you talk there about kind of long-term benefit post-event, if you like. And it sounds to me like there's some resonance there in terms of legacy with the dissertation you wrote around stadium legacy, and what, in terms of an event and what you leave behind, that is as important as actually the event itself. So, being included part of the community, being able to kind of ensure that there's some sustainability in terms of the businesses, that the businesses understand the benefit of having a world-leading a World Series event within their communities, has a long-term benefit for everybody. I like the idea about employability too.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the stats that we had from UTS 2023, when you look at the average spend of a runner who came to that event, and then you multiply that across the number of runners that were there for the weekend, and then you add in the supply chain costs that we put into the local economy through choosing local suppliers over suppliers elsewhere, it comes to about £1.1 million that we've created in the North Wales economy over a 3-day event, plus the days before and after with the event build and getting everything ready. So, it's a sizable amount of money over a week period, 1.1 million. That's just the economic side. That's not looking at the volunteers that came from within Gwynedd, Conwy, Anglesey, had a great 3-day experience, went home and were really proud to showcase their region to runners from near and far. Yeah, it's a starting point. You know, I think it can only get better as we really try to solidify what UTS is and how it does have a positive impact. You know, we really need to focus on the runners as well. You know, that quality race experience needs to remain, and we need to better that each year. It's great to get the feedback in the survey, and it takes a very long time to read through everybody's comments, but we do read those and listen to what people say. We aren't perfect. I know we've made a few errors in the last couple of editions and just slightly miscalculated things, but you know, we do try and respond to those the following year. The weather does impact that a little bit, and we need to be very careful that we've got great contingency and planning process. So whatever the forecast is, we can accommodate that. But yeah, ultimately, like having a solid race and event experience for the runners, making sure we've got fantastic volunteers who are equally enjoying themselves and having a great time. And I'd encourage anybody to come and volunteer at a UTMB race, whether it is Arc of Attrition or it is UTS next year. Do come and get involved if you really want to see what happens behind the scenes. You know, they're really key. But I think the biggest thing for me in terms of moving into this event director role over the last 12 months is, how do our events become integral to the regions in which they're hosted? How do we make sure that our event benefits those communities and is seen as a fundamental feature that can continue year on year? And having really good relationships with the local authorities, the running communities in those regions who want to come and, you know, be proud of where they're running, and also all the different supply chain and stakeholders that we work with.
Brilliant. It's fascinating. I mean, I could sit here talking and chatting and asking you questions for ages, but I think we need to wrap it up, very sadly. It's been really great to talk to you, Hayden. Thank you. Really
No problem.
Brilliant.
Well,
Thanks,
thanks for having me on. It's great to see you both again. And if you want to catch up after Arc of Attrition in Janury next year,
yes, definitely. Well, I may, although it does tend to clash, doesn't it, with another race, but that I also volunteer on. But yeah, I'd love to volunteer. And actually, just to see the difference sort of behind the scenes between
You know, I've never run a UTMB race. Never. I'll have to get my name down. I'm not too sure whether 100 will be beyond me for January, but I need to look at it.
Well, there's a 50 mile and a 25 mile, Robin. So, actually, no, the 50 miles full at the minute. So I'd say the 25 mile if you're interested.
All right, I might do.
Yeah, definitely.
Come and prove for somebody.
All the best with it. Anyway, I hope it goes
good luck.
smoothly. And thank you again, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you both. Cheers.